righty, guys. Thank you so much for joining tonight. We're going to go ahead and get started.
All right, come on. Well, welcome all of you, our friends on Facebook, YouTube, our panelists that's here tonight. Just want to say thank you for joining us in Y Sales Network. So tonight is the last in the series that we have done leading up to our Y Sales Leadership Retreat. And then we've moved on to with the Pivot and Panic. We went past the retreat because we had such great response. And there was a couple of extra conversations or a couple of more conversations, I should say, that we just didn't want to let go of. We want to make sure that we address them before we close out this particular series. Now we are going to go to a monthly series, and we'll be marketing that, and hopefully all of you guys join us. We're going to have some different companies on board participating. So we ask that you stay tuned to the Y Sales Network Facebook page, LinkedIn. You can definitely follow me. I am Joyce Johnson, author, speaker, sales champion, coach, and founder of Y Sales Network. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and get started. Again, our topic for tonight is the customer experience. There's been a change or a shift in a lot of things, but one thing that I've noticed over the last few years is that we've gone from customer service to customer experience. And so I wanted to have that conversation with some folks that work heavily, their work is involved around creating a customer experience. I know for me, I like to create good customer experiences for my customers, and it may mean something different as a sales professional. But I also love getting great customer service and having a great customer experience. So I just think it's an important conversation to be had. And so tonight, stay tuned. We have Ms. Tish Bivens with us and Bernard Cooper. I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves. I'm going to have Tish kick it off. I'm handing the baton on to you, Tish.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I am Tish Bivens. I work for Asurian. I've been with Asurian about 11 years. I started when I was 16, just to give you a guess there.
Yeah.
Go with that. So we are a global technology protection company. The largest portion of our footprint is here in the US, but we're also located in Asia, Europe, South America, Canada, several other places. Essentially, what we do is we provide technology protection. And so to sum that up, that is both insurance and warranty services for just about anything that connects to the internet. We have a small bit of a direct-to-consumer portion of our business, but largely we operate through our clients. And so if you think about any mobile carrier, think of some of the big retail companies in the US, they likely carry our product. Think of online, they likely carry our product, and you can add it when you buy any piece of technology. Like I said, I've been with the company a while. I've had a number of roles since I've been there. I'll fast forward to my most recent role. I'm currently the Senior Director of Operations for our same-day experience team. And so what we do is for those customers who have, say you have insurance or say you have warranty services and something unfortunate happens and you need our help, it is my team of about 1,600 folks who will deliver you a replacement device, and we will also help you with that device. So think about, we'll help you get it connected, we'll help you set it up, we'll also help you with other technology in your home. Of course, COVID has hit now, so we've had to change the way that we operate, and I'll be sharing a little bit more about that. And so that's it. I'll stop there, Joyce.
Okay. And I'm going to share a story about an experience I had recently with your company. Yes, I'm going to share that as we go. So Bernard, I'm going to hand off to you and introduce yourself to our attendees.
All right, good afternoon. I am Bernard Cooper, currently in the Bahamas. I am a Bahamian, of course. So just a little bit about myself. I'm originally from Grand Key, Abaco, which is a small key, not an island, it's a small key off of Freeport and just a few miles off of the mainland Abaco. I grew up there all my life. I graduated back in 2005 and I left there since, and the journey started. For me, they always ask, why customer service? And I think for me, it's a love for people, whether it's training, whether it's human resources, or whether it's just the day-to-day interaction with customers, whether that's internal or external. So I've had a number of roles. I can say that my journey started at Commonwealth Bank, which is the largest commercial bank here in the Bahamas. So I started there. I was with them about six years, and then on to Atlantis, and then back into Freeport. So currently, I'm now working for AM Property Group, which is a large real estate development. Currently it's based in the States, but eventually, as of this month, we moved directly into the Bahamas. And so I am more than happy to be, where I'm at right now. It's all a learning progress, and it's a learning curve, I like to call it. But I've spent a lot of time, sorry, dealing with customer issue, customer complaints. So we talk about customer experience, customer retention, and most of all, the customer experience. So that's about it for me in a nutshell.
Yeah. Bernard and I have spent many evenings talking about the customer experience and books that we both read and challenges and training people for that customer experience. So again, we've gone from customer service to customer experience. And so I want to ask you, Tish, because you guys do have a very large portfolio. Um, what does customer experience mean to your company, to your organization? Is that defined, and is that communicated to your 1,600 people that service your customers on your behalf, on the company's behalf?
Yep, absolutely. And just a point of clarity, that 1,600 is just my team. Our footprint
Okay.
here in the United States, we're probably about 12,000 employees or so in the US.
Okay.
So, my portion is just one section of the operations. But your point about the transition from customer services to customer experience has been a journey for us as well. I think about that as, remember I said that we are a technology protection company. So often customers are reaching out to us when they need something, right? When something breaks, when they lose something, when something goes wrong. And then when they reach out to us, once upon a time, it was a very transactional experience, right? You call, I take some information, give you the outcome, let you go. That we're so much further than that. When you think about where customers are in their life, when you think about technology, on average now, customers back in my day, you had maybe a VCR, a TV, and a corded phone back in the day. Now, when you think about the amount of technology that you have in your home, I mean, you have nearly 17, 20 devices. So needing our help, not just when it breaks, but also when you're buying something new, when you're improving and getting the best functionality of that device. So we've migrated and we've evolved from call me when you need me to even proactive support, right? And so what that looks like is when you call us, or when we reach out to you, we meet you where you are, right? So depending on where you are in your journey and the life cycle of your product, we meet you there and we help you right where you are. So instead of following a script, right, and you've got to follow the script down to the teeth, and you got to follow me along, customer. No, we threw that out, and instead, there is no script. We meet you where you are in the journey, and then we allow our employees to take you whatever path that you'd like to go down. So for my 1,600, to give you an example, we are replacing devices. We are bringing those devices to your home. I'll tell you the modified process in just a second. So when I get to your home as one of our experts, we will help you wherever you are in your technology education, right? So we have people who are really savvy. We have people who are like a novice. So we'll start from wherever you like. And then as we help you through that journey, we're educating you along the way. So instead of it being this transactional interaction, now it's an experience where you're also learning in that journey, right? And then we like to become that trusted advisor to the customer. And so when you think about technical support, you don't want that to be a robot. You want that to be someone who makes you feel good about your technology, who helps you with your technology. And so that's what we seek to be. And we allow our tools as well as our experts to have the freedom in that experience to customize it to that particular customer. So that's been our journey from customer service to customer experience.
That's great. And and I promised you I was going to share a story about Assurant and their customer experience. So I've recently experienced someone on the phone and someone coming to my home. So I had insurance with Verizon for all my devices. And sometimes you buy it and you just forget that you have those things, right? So I forgot that I had them. So I went to Verizon, I purchased an iPad, and so I told him, I said, well, before I, get this iPad, I'm also going to call so I can have the screen fixed on my existing iPad. So when I called you guys, and it was, I should have called you guys first, which is my intentions, but I said, well, I got Verizon on the phone. Let me just do this. So I buy all the covers and everything you need for the phone, right? The screen protectors, the keyboard for the iPad, and all those things.
Okay.
So in my mind, you guys are going to send me a very old arcade iPad like what I had. And I would just keep it here at the house for my niece when she comes to visit, because she likes to watch Netflix on my iPad, although she has her own.
Okay.
So I get the iPads on the same day, from your customer, Verizon, and from you guys. And also, a young lady on the call was doing a great sales job. She was trying to upsell me. She was really, I was just on the time restraint, but she did an excellent job. I was like, if I open a call center, I'm going to call and steal her. I wrote her name down somewhere. But any rate, I get them in, and they look alike. And I'm like, no way. This cannot be the same iPad. So I'm examining it. I'm looking at the side to see what the name is and everything. It's the same iPad. I'm like, well, no, I must have paid for more bandwidth or something, more storage than what Assurance sent me, right? Clearly, Assurance did not send me the best of the best. Well, I paid for like 156. You guys sent me, what, 256 or something? And I was like, okay, well, I guess I can return this other one and just keep the old banged up one for my niece. And then, yeah, and at the same time, I asked them to come fix the screen on my old iPhone, because I had the 8 and I just purchased the 11, but I wanted to keep both, because when I go hang out with Bernard in the Bahamas, I like to put the little chip in there so that I can have a Bahamas number. I normally do, BTC or Live, one of the companies there, so that people can call me locally. And so a gentleman shows up to my house, knocks on the door. He has his face mask on. I have my face mask on. And he gets my phone. He goes out to his car and he fixes the phone, brings it back. He's cleaned it all up and everything. And he was also very complimentary, which I tell salespeople a lot of times too. A compliment goes a long way, right? I know some people aren't even getting dressed for COVID. I do get dressed. I put this red lipstick on every morning, every day. It's every day. So he was like, oh, wow, love your smile, or something like that. And I was like, you're not too shabby yourself. He had a long red beard hanging out. And I was like, I see you with your growth beard there. And so we just had a really good experience, and then he went back, cleaned the phone up and everything really good. It's like, do you have any questions or anything I can help you with? And I was like, no, I'm good. I think I got it from here. And then he rolled into the sunset, right? And so, but it was just a really good experience. So I have to say kudos to Sharon for that. And when I was thinking about who I could have on this platform to talk about customer experience, that was, normally I've been talking about the airlines or something, because y'all know I love to fly. But that was just really a good customer experience. And so, kudos to you guys. You're obviously doing a great job training your folks, because both the one who was on the phone and the one that I connected with in person went very well.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that.
Yes, kudos. Sometimes people don't tell the bad stories. And that's another thing Bernard and I were talking about, that people have got to start telling the good stories, right? We have to be deliberate about telling the good stories. And I will do that, Bernard, because we've talked about, like, if I'm at a hotel and I have a bad experience, I'm hesitant to write that person up. It would have to be really, really bad, because a lot of times I may put an extra tip in somebody's hand, but a lot of times I don't take that extra time to write a little note at the hotel about the people that did something really good. So if I don't, say something good, I'm not going to say something bad, right? And that's just, a Joyce thing. But Bernard and I've talked about that too. So, but I want to move over to you, because you do a lot of training of how to create that customer experience. So when you're talking, let's just say the hotels, because the hotels, we're trying to get people to the hotels in the Bahamas. I'm going to be over there. I think I'm going to stay at 3 or 4 different ones. I have to go to Bimini. Then from Bimini, I got to go to Freeport. From Freeport, I got to head back to NASA. This is the Hilton Results in Bimini. I forget where I'm going to be in Freeport. You can remind me. And then I'll be visiting, having meetings with the Warwick, Atlantis, and Bahamar on NASA. So when you're training people in the hotel, give us 2 or 3 tips that you tell them right off the bat that helps them with creating a strong customer experience? Say from the moment the customer hits the door, because that's that first impression. So what are some tips you give them from the minute that we get off that plane and we hit the front doors of the hotel?
All right. So, and here's what I say. I learned this trick a long time ago back in the bank when I first started. There was this lady, her name is Psyche McDonald, and she's a very, very, very good trainer. I think she's now at Bank of the Bahamas, right? But kudos to her. She, back in the day, she told me, she said, you have to be a character. Whenever you hit this, whenever you come on the front line or you are approaching a customer, you have to act as though you're an actor. Game on. And so I always remember this. I was very young in my prime, just going through the whole customer service motion. And through this, I started to have a love for it. And so I tell people this all the time. Whenever you are on the job or you have to deal with a situation or you have to deal with a customer, game on. You're now an actor. You're now an actress because everything
Yes.
that fits, so everything that fits into that narrative or fits into that short film goes a long way. Whether it's good or it's bad, the customer is going to remember that. So for me, I always say, listen, when you get on the floor, you're an actor or you're an actress. It's okay to not be yourself, you know. And another thing I learned too during my sales training is something called positive contact, right? So a lot of times we meet customers, and sometimes they're not in talking distance, but they're in eye distance. So they're walking to you. So from the time that you lay eyes on them, it is as simple as nodding your head or acknowledging or just giving them a smile. This now sets a warm tone for the person that is going to approach you. So you notice when you look at them from afar and you give them a smile, right? When they approach you, they're smiling too. They're actually warming and welcoming. They might have had a horrible experience on the flight. Flight might have been delayed. The kid next door or in the back of them were crying the entire time. So everything was horrible. But when they come to you now, it goes from customer service to this customer experience. And so that's another thing that I tell people all the time. It's okay. It's okay to be friendly. We live in the Bahamas now where customer service is our number one industry. And so we need you to come. We welcome you to come, but we want you to return as well too. So now the experience that we give to you have to be above any other. Listen, people now go to Dubai for vacation. They go to other Caribbean islands. They will vacation in London, but we want them to come to the Bahamas so they can have an experience like none other. I promise you.
And you want them to return.
Of course. Of
Right?
course.
You want them to return because really that's what customer experience and customer loyalty programs are all about. Because I'm loyal to a fault. It's like another airline can have a ticket on sale and I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm going to go with the airline that I go with. And, and I'm going to have my, the club membership. I'm going to have the entire experience. Right. And so, once people have that great experience, which I think is a miss for a lot of, unfortunately, sometimes a lot of people, some of the small businesses, and I hope that they're listening today. I put it in some of the Facebook posts, but, that first experience, that first contact, as you said, when sometimes you feel when you walk in somewhere, people don't even acknowledge you. But if they just smile, even if they can't take you right then and there, or they're on the phone, but just, like Tara Banks says, smiles. If they just smiles with their eyes, it creates a feeling that, okay, I've been acknowledged, right?
Yeah. So I'll just wait until you're free and then you're going to take me. So it sets a different tone.
Yes. So Tish, do you guys ever have that face-to-face, or what are some of the tips that you give your people? Because we do want to help people in this virtual space right now. And that was another thing that I liked about Assurant is that, it was a virtual experience for me, right? It was over the phone. The guy did come to the house, but, even that was booked over the phone. So what are some of the tips you give your people?
Yeah, so a couple things. So our remember I said we're a technology protection company, right?
Yes.
So you even highlighted that you have our product, but you forget that you have it, right? So you are a classic customer. I have had the Asurian product on my personal device since 2000.
Forever.
So 19 years I've had our product. Even before I started working for the company, I didn't even know it was Assyrian, right?
Yes.
So someone like us, in 19 years, I think I've filed maybe 2 claims. One was online and one was over the phone. So someone like me may decide, hey, I don't need that, right? I don't ever use it. In 19 years, I've only used it twice. I don't really need it. I'm pretty responsible with my devices. So if we're not finding a way to create value for a customer, then people are going to say, hey, I don't want it, right? So then take that a step further. If you have a customer who they use it once in 19 years and it goes terrible, they're going to drop it, right? So
Once you drop it.
one of the really big things that we impress upon our team is you are holding the brand of the company in that experience that you create for the customer, right? So
I'll
one
say that
time
again.
you are holding the brand of the company when you create that experience. So one time in 19 years, they're going to interact with the Shurian. You're going to be the one person. I am the senior director of operations. I have 1,600 people that work for me. I don't interact with any of the customers. So you are going to be the one person they're going to interact with, and they're going to think on that one interaction, that is what the company is, that is what it stands for. And that's huge, right? And when we think about how we make money because customers have our product and they keep our product and they find it valuable. So if they use it one time and then they drop it, well, nobody wins in that scenario, right? So
No.
you hold the brand in your hand, right? At the expert level, at the frontline level, you hold the brand. So when it comes to tips on, how do you protect that brand? So you guys hit on some really great things around, the basics of being warm, being friendly. I would take that a step further for my team because we interact with the customers in their home. This is prior to COVID. I'll get to now what we do, but before COVID, we
Yeah.
interact with the
Pre-COVID.
customer in their home, right? So when someone lets you in their house, they need to feel good about who's coming in and your energy and
Right.
your presence. That I need to feel really good about that to let that you in your home. So that your point around being smile, being warm, being friendly, that goes a long way. That's huge. The other thing for us, we also have a sales component of the work that we do. We try and upsell our customers. We believe that you have to earn the right to sell. That's not automatic. You have to earn the right to sell. So how do you do that? Well, start at the very beginning. If I don't arrive at your home on time, if you chose a window for me to show up and then I don't show up in that window, it's all bad already, right? So I have to respect your time, the time that you chose your appointment window. I need to respect your time. So it starts there. I need to contact you. Most of our customers, I think they say 78, 79% of customers want to track their technician when they have a service. So think of cable, a plumber,
True.
us, they want to track whether that's an email track, text track, or phone track. So you need to proactively reach out to that customer and let them know I'm 30 minutes out, I'll be there in an hour. Like, so those are two, that's the start. That's before you even get there, right? So once you then get to the customer's home, when I talk about earning, you've got to be able, what did you show up there for, right? This is a customer who had a broken device or they needed some help with their technology. You have to resolve that issue. We call it serving and solving. And that means I have to show up and do the job that you expect me to do. If I can't do that, it's out, right? If I paid you as my roofer to come in and fix my roof and you do everything but fix the roof, it's over, right? It's out. So
Done.
earning the ability to sell then becomes I have to take care, I have to perform the service that you paid me to do, that the reason why I'm here. And while I'm doing that, here's where I put the cherry on top of it. While I'm here performing the service that you asked me to perform, because I've been on time, I've been in contact with you, I'm here in the right place with the right technology for you. Now I'm going to help you with other technology in your home, right?
Right.
So I showed up to do one thing. This is where we call it delight, surprise and delight is what we call it. So this is where I surprise and delight you because you thought I was coming just to take care of your device. Now I'm helping you with other technology in your home. I'm helping you with that MacBook. I'm helping you connect that Alexa that's been sitting in the box for weeks now. I'm going to help you connect that. I'm helping you with your smart bulbs that you can't figure out. Well, I'm going to help you with that because I can help you with any technology while I'm already here. So now that I've laid the foundation for that, when it comes to offering you other products and services that we have, it's a breeze. It sells itself because if you can get more great service like me, I just helped you out. I just helped you with more things. If you can get even more of that and you have more technology in your home than you've ever had, why not? So we lay that journey out for our experts. We put them on the scene so they can feel and understand. Like that's the experience that we're trying to create every single time, every single day. I would say the last point I would say we deal with hundreds of customers, thousands of customers every single day. And like I said, I have one interaction in 19 years. So it's important that I treat every single customer like the first customer of the day. I'm pumped. I got my energy. I'm ready to go because
Right.
although you are my 20th customer, to the customer, this is their one interaction in 19 years.
That, you know what, that is so right. And one thing is, I hope our audience is listening to, we have two different industries that we're talking about here, but the nuggets that they're telling us and the things that they're sharing is so aligned with what Bernard is saying and what Tish is saying, right? So, and so I say to our small business owners that have joined us, you really have to think about the customer experience and for employees, we talked about this last week about owning the brand. You own your company's brand. Sometimes you're the only person that they see or have an interaction with the company. So what they see on your Facebook, what they see on your LinkedIn, what they see, you doing a lot of times, especially if you're in leadership, a lot of times people know the company because they know you,
Exactly.
right?
So
So
I
you
just want,
have to own that brand. Go ahead, Bernard.
I want to piggyback on something that Tish said earlier.
Yes.
So in my earlier career, I started at the bank and I used to work in collections. And collection, is the worst part of any company that you want to work in because you now have to recover the debt. And so there was something I learned in my earlier years that when you're collecting money or you're now reaching out to a customer for money, remember now, they were smiling, they were good when it was time to lend the money. Now things change. And so now you have to call them now to get the money back. But there was one thing I learned, and it sounds crazy, right? But I was always told to smile on the phone. And so I'm wondering to myself, like, why am I smiling on the phone? I'm calling a customer for monies that is owed, and I'm smiling. So I never learned. I first learned that listen, when you're on the phone with a customer, you have to break the ice. Remember now, they're not sitting in front of you, so they can't see your body language, they can't tell about your posture, they can't see your facial expression. They can only hear the tone in your voice. And so when you call them now, you're having a conversation over the telephone and you smile, it now sets a warm tone for the conversation in the manner which this is going to go. And so I took that with me for probably about 10, 15 years ago, and I still do it today. I still do it today. And so even now in customer service, I still do it when I answer the phone and I'm talking to a customer and I smile, like they smile back and then they would laugh. And so I tell a lot of businesses or a lot of people that I train, it's okay to smile. It isn't
It
crazy.
is.
Customer
And you're
service,
so
just
right.
smile.
Yeah, you're so right. We tell people that in sales when they're on the phones. In sales we call it dialing for money, right? So when you're dialing for money, you need to be like, "Hi, this is Joyce. How you doing? Hi. Make it a great day." Da, 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 And when I leave that message, I'm like smiling. I'm like, "Hi, this is Joyce, Joyce Johnson. Give me a call." It puts a different energy out there when you're smiling, right?
Yeah.
So it helps. It puts a different energy out there. So one thing, a question that I have for you guys, this is always a challenge in some cases. In sales, we measure things. You guys know that I'm in sales and key sales. In sales, we measure a lot by numbers, right? Numbers of activity, numbers of onboarding customers, numbers of revenue. How do you effectively measure the customer experience, Bernard? I'm going to start Bernard, then we go to Tish. How do you measure the customer experience? If you're training some folks at a hotel right now, as Bahamas trying to get people ramped back up to come there, how are you measuring that customer experience?
Oh wow. So here's the thing, right? And I say this all the time, and I hope there's no backlash. But I always say, yeah, I always say when I'm training, some companies are still in the Stone Age. And when I say the Stone Age, that they base it on the customer that come to the resort. That can be one way, or they look for the customer, the amount of customer that return. But I always say to them, listen, if you're gonna measure, or you're gonna have some kind of KPIs in place that is gonna measure the activity of the customer, you have to start from ground zero. And we talked earlier about the customer. The customer that walked through the door, that might be the 100th customer, but to them, they're your first customer. And so what we talk also about the brand in itself, and so we talk about each employee being a brand ambassador. So for me, when I'm measuring service or return or experience, we look for it in the customer, the way that the customer speak about the brand, the way that the customer speak about the resort, the way there's a lot of customer that come to the resort and their experience is so good. They're saying they're standing at the desk or they're standing at the resort and they're saying, listen, I'm booking my return as we speak. So when you hear things like this, it goes back and it says, listen, I know that I'm doing a good job. Like I'm wowing the hell out of you. Like you're coming back to me, And I tell people this all the time in all my training sessions. I say, listen, the customer experience or the customer service that we have, think of it as someone coming to your home. When they come to your home, you're welcoming them to your home. You're offering them to your home. You're serving them in your home. You're making them feel warm and welcome. And so when I leave Joy's home, I want to know that I'm going to return. I'm not going to say, oh, well, I had a very bad experience. It was too cold. The lighting was wrong. I don't want to go back there. The experience was horrible. So I prefer to go to Tish house where it is warm and welcoming. She has a beverage on the table. She's welcoming in. There's always food here. Like
Yes.
the experience in itself.
Speaking of that beverage, Bernard, I'm going to share something with you I like to see in the Bahamas. Okay. So I took a business trip to St. Martin. And I was so busy. It's so funny. I was actually on my way to San Anastasia, but I stayed in St. Martin, over in the Dutch Caribbean. So I had one of my sellers with me. We went. It was her birthday. I promised her she would have a good time. But we end up at the wrong hotel because they had split her hotel from my hotel. And so when I got to that hotel, I'm like, yeah, no way, this is the hotel that they put me at. But anyway, but what I loved about that hotel is it was an all-inclusive. As soon as I got there, they bought me some towels to wipe my hands with, and then they bought me a beverage. And then the restaurant area was closed, but they said, we'll have someone cook something for you, because my company has had some people stay there in the past, in that brand, and they saw it. So although I wasn't going to stay at their hotel, they still treated me like I was, right? They gave me a beverage, the towels, went down and got me something to eat. And it was really exceptional. So they helped me get a car. So when I got over to the hotel where I was supposed to stay at, which is another all-inclusive property, but it was, I can't think of it right now. So, but anyway, guess what the nest? That's going to bother me. But at any rate, went over there to that hotel, got in. They bought me a towel, an even nicer drink. The other hotel probably had like a, little margarita or something. They bought me a blue martini. So if you guys know me, they're speaking my language, right?
Shaken, not stirred.
They're speaking my language. And then they took me, when the butler took me up to my quarters, the rooms where I was staying and everything, he opened up the cabinet with all these beverages in there. And I was like, oh, he said, well, enjoy. And I said, oh, well, this is a company trip. I'm not here. He said, oh, well, take it home with you. It's been paid for. But the whole thing was just such a great experience from the moment we walked into the hotel. And it's something as simple as, they knew it was hot outside. It's hot in the Bahamas. You come out in front of Bahamas, you're in a sweat. They had the towels for us, the beverages, right? And then even accommodated with the food. And I just really thought that was, very special. And I said that day, I was like, oh, I'm going to have the folks to the Bahamas do this, because for all the Bahamians on the phone, my goal is to become an ambassador for the Bahamas. So. Yes. So enough of that. But that's one of the things that I said, it's all about that experience and how you feel when you're there. And then I think it's also how much money you spend, right? If you go to the spa, if you go to the different areas, if you're spending more time on the property than off the property. Because when I go to a property and I feel like they're meeting all my needs and I'm having a good experience, I'm less likely to go off the property to other things. I'm going to stay on the property. Well, for me, because I don't like going out anywhere, I'm going to stay on the property and I'm going to spend my money there. So.
Okay. You know, I wanted to touch on, we were talking earlier about the customer, right? And so I learned this really quickly about customer, and there's two top types of customers: internal customer service and external customers, right?
Yes, we
And
talked about
so
that. Yes.
I think, yeah, so I think for me, and that a lot of people, a lot of companies fail because they regret to enlighten their employees, or the employees fail to give the same service to their colleagues or their as they would give to an external customer. So you wonder why that you go to certain enterprises or different companies and there's this hostility between the staff, and you can almost sense the tension between the staff, and you're like, you're smiling at me, you're giving me awesome service, but I can tell that you have a problem with your supervisor. I can tell that you have a problem with the cashier, and there's an issue with the front desk agent. So I say this all the time. Before you can actually come to the front, you now have to ascertain yourself to say, listen, when I come here, I'm a brand ambassador, not just for the company, but also for myself. You know, a lot of times people say, listen, I am my brand, and and it sounds very cocky and it sounds overconfident, but it is the truth. I am Joyce Johnson is a brand. You are your brand. And so before you get into a company, it would now reflect onto you what you can bring to the table. And so before we get to the external customer service, I always say, listen, let's deal with internal customer service first. Let's deal with this first, and then we can go to external customer service, because it's a malicious intent for us to now treat everyone in our environment poor, and then we open the door and we have this fake smile, this exactly, exactly, and we're
Yeah.
ready to serve the public, but we're not ready to serve ourselves, you know. And then Joyce, you and I talk a lot about cultural diversity.
Hmm.
you know, in the Bahamas here, whether we like it or not, this is a melting pot. We have persons from different Caribbean islands, or the United States, Canada, around the world, who come to the Bahamas. Some of them are now residents, and they live here. And then there are some who work here, come in to invest, and they live here now. But for us, we always say, listen, this here is our bread and butter, so to say. And so with that, we have to be careful, not careful, yeah, we have to be careful on our approach, on our demeanor, on how we approach everyone. Because now we're looking at this to say, hey, listen, we are our brand, you are my brand, right? The company is the brand, right? And so when we talk about cultural diversity, I say this all the time. I say, listen, the Spaniards, like people from Spain, Mexico, they're very aggressive. They talk with their hands. Jamaicans, they talk with their hands. But it doesn't mean that it's an argument. It isn't an altercation. All it means is that it's their culture. This is how they communicate. And so I tell people all the time that when you see this is going on, it's not a problem. You just have to find a way now to get involved, so you can now deal with this and give everyone a great experience. So here I always say that with customer service, with sales, like, we have to go to the drawing board to say, listen, cultural diversity, it's very, very prevalent here, and this is something that you have to draw the line with.
Absolutely. And Tish, I have some thoughts, but I'm gonna pop over to you because um, I especially on that part about the internal customer, right? And having your employees feel special, and and incentives for them. Can you speak to that?
Yeah. So I think it's a couple things. I mean, employees are motivated in several different ways, right? So some folks are motivated by money, of course. Other folks are motivated by recognition, and then kind of lastly, folks are motivated by opportunity, right? So think opportunity to do more. So we pour a lot into the culture of recognition. And
Hmm.
that's not just a top-down approach, right? So leaders recognizing, or yeah, recognizing employees. It's also employees recognizing each other, right? So there's that, and then there's a difference between recognition and appreciation, and we're clear about that too, right? And so think
Right.
recognition is you've done something, now I'm going to recognize you for that something, but appreciation comes from you just being you. One of the things that a leader told me a very long time ago, and I share it all the time with my leaders, is 10 years from now, years from now, 20 years from now, nobody will care about the metrics that you hit. No one will care that you had great, 5-star ratings and great handle time. No one will care about that. What employees will remember, they will remember the fingerprint that you left on their life, right? So how you make them feel, how you help them in their journey. And that is the exact same thing for our customers too. When it comes to measuring customer experience, we have all the basic stuff, right? So in any industry, you have, some type of customer loyalty or churn, right? So people keeping your product or service is always a nice compliment. We use 5-star rating. It depends on the program. We use 10-star too, but some type of customer satisfaction rating. Of course, we have that. We also have the process of kind of our internal quality assurance process, if you would call it, and that's where we are taking the time to measure our own customer service, right? So if the 5-star rating is coming from the customer about us, before we even get that from the customer, we want to measure ourselves and see, is this the type of interaction, is the type of experience that we stand by? And so we grade ourselves pretty hard on that. And then we use that culture of coaching to make sure we're passing that feedback along, and we're helping people build and get better about the process and about the experiences that they're delivering. So those are kind of like every industry kind of have those. I would take it a step further. We also measure the experience by the stories that our customers tell, as well as our employees, right? There are some wonderful stories about the experiences that they have. Remember, I said my team is a team we are out in the field. So we're delivering technology to customers' home. We're in their home pre-COVID, and we're helping them out with their technology. We're getting them back up and running. And so we have a mechanism for which our employees can showcase the different experiences they have out in the field and share those with their leaders all the way up to me. And so there are some of my favorite stories. We had a case where one of our employees was doing their job, right? So I'm there, I'm setting up, I'm doing the work. But while they were there, the customer's son, I believe he was a 15-year-old, he was into music. And so he was writing music. He was into rap music. And so my employee starts writing a rap verse with them. And so this 15-year-old and my employee are having like a rap battle, right? When you think about that, like that's not what we're there for. And I can't teach someone in training how to, write a rap verse and, conduct a rap battle. But not only were they there to take care of that customer's device and get them set up, their son is there. It was a very real person, and they're engaging with their son. From that story, I've had another one where one of my the customer, she had a 4th grader, and that 4th grader was doing their homework, because we do a lot of our deliveries in the evening, right? They were doing their homework, and so our employee starts helping the 4th grader with their math problems. Right. So that is something that I can't teach an employee in training. Make sure you help kids with their math problems while they're out there. But I guarantee you that customer will always remember the service that they had with us. And it will be more than a service for them, because we treated them as a human. We were there to help them with their technology, and we made it really personable and customized for them. So I think measuring the experience by the stories that we tell is also equally important.
It is. And I just shared one. I had a great story, a good experience, right?
Absolutely.
So I just, shared one. And so that's important. But we're coming up to about 20 minutes before the hour, and we have people on the line. So, and on Facebook and YouTube. So I want to be able to give people an opportunity to ask you guys questions. I really appreciate the insight, the information that you guys are providing. But we may have a few gaps and want to hear from some of the folks in our audience. So Monica, I'm going to ask you to share some of the questions, and you guys are out there. If you haven't popped it into chat yet, or if you haven't put it on Facebook, go ahead, and we're going to take a minute, and when Monica sees all those, then she'll let us know what's out there. So Bernard and Tish, if you had to and Tish, you just gave us a good one. You gave us a good one, but if you had to start off with a Monday motivation and tell your people just one quote that would make an impact, what would it be?
Yeah, I'm gonna hit you with a repeat. I'm gonna hit you with a repeat.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, it's all about the fingerprint that you are leaving on that person's life, right? Like that's the extent that we want to go to. It is not just an interaction. It's not just this one-time thing. And when you think about fingerprints, they're unique, right? There's no one that's the exact same, right? So that is a customized experience for this particular customer. And then after you do that, how do you replicate it? And then you give another experience to the very next customer. I think it's very easy to have a wow experience one time, but how do you do it consistently, right? Because every single customer, every single job, every single day, like that is what we want.
Consistency is key. Consistency is key. So Bernard, what would be one of the things you share with them to get them fired up on a Monday morning, get started?
Okay, so I had some technical difficulties. My computer went down and came back up. So I missed the part where you were asking the question. So can you please repeat?
Yes, of course. Just one thing that you would share with your team in the morning, that sort of that Monday motivation, a quote, just a brief quote that you would share with them to take during the week as to make them know, carry this on with you through the week as you're servicing customers.
I think if I can move past the quote, it'd probably be food. See,
Would it be
everyone
what?
enjoys a good food. Probably
Oh, food. Oh, feed people. You feed them. It's great. You have those donuts there in the morning, some bagels or whatever, and it works every time. It works every
but
time.
but seriously though, growing up in my career, we always talk about being on the fly. It simply means that um, you might not be able to have like a group huddle or checkpoint with your entire staff, but
Yes.
you try your best, depending on the number of staff. You try to have an on-the-fly situation where you can meet at least one or two together, or just one. And so it is good to, is one thing I learned that about criticism in the workplace. You tell them exactly what the good things that they do. You explain to them, listen, last week was an awesome week. You had an awesome performance. It was good. Just one thing I want to touch on, and it could probably be, the simple phone conversation, or the time they take to answer the phone, and so it's something to work on. And so when you tell people, you give them the good things first, and then you say, what, but I think you could just work on this. I think it's always good in the workplace when it comes to customer service.
Yeah, absolutely. And recently, and this one was very funny, you guys. I was reading. I don't know how many copies of the book I've purchased. I left it on a plane and everything. It's finally got the audio. But "Shut Up and Listen" by Tillman Fertitta, who owns hotels and restaurants, casinos, the Houston Rockets, and he's the billionaire homeboy, I call him, because he's from Galveston, Texas, where I grew up. And his book, "Shut Up and Listen," he tells his employees, I'm not saying you're not going to have a bad day. We all have a bad day. But when you have a bad day, I want you to be happily. And they say, well, what do you mean happily? He said, I want you to play happy. And eventually you'll get there. Like you
I
said,
agree.
so smile anyway, smiles with eyes, as Tara Banks say, be happily, and eventually you'll get there. And and he's a customer service king. I hope he's amazing when it comes to customer service and building a brand. So Monica, what do we have in our Q&A? We're a Q.
So a question for Tish. So COVID has presented a number of challenges, as we all know, but do you see any opportunities for customers to adapt technology on a higher level because of COVID-19, and how so?
That's a good one. I don't know if I have a good way to measure like the customer's level of adoption or just better with their technology, but I will say in COVID, customers have needed their technology more than ever, right? So if you think pre-COVID, being without your phone or being without your internet service for a little while was bad then, it's worse now. So the service that we provide is on a whole nother level, and it is so necessary and it's so needed. I will say, as an organization, we've had to modify, right, for the safety of our employees as well as customers. So remember, I mentioned that we go into the customer's home normally to do the work that we do, or we're not going into customer's home. And for a little while, we just couldn't help you. Like, we could deliver your device, but that was like the end of what we could do. You could call the call center to get additional help, but that was the end of what we could do. And what we did was we matured and evolved our process so that we call it a curbside experience, right? And so Joyce mentioned of like when you're fixing the phone, but also when you're setting up the phone, right? So imagine I'm delivering it, then I'm going to go sit out in my car right there in your front yard, and I'm going to talk you through getting it all set up. We've evolved that to use technology like FaceTime and Zoom to connect with the customer, so we can watch you as you're setting up your device, as we're helping you set up your device. So that's been another step in that direction to meet the customer where they are and protect us all in terms of safety. I would also say the last thing on that is, customers reach out to us in various ways when it comes to like technical support. So some people like using the phone, but some people like to chat, right? Some people like chat, some people like text message, some people like face to face. And so we deliver all of them, right? We meet the customer wherever they are in that journey. So if you want to do it via chat and you don't want to spend time talking to someone, fantastic. We will take care of you through a chat or through a messaging experience as well.
Awesome. Great answer. A question for you, Bernard, is how do you get your team to buy into what it is you're selling?
First of all, you have to believe in the brand, right? And so I always tell people, whenever you go into any company that you're going to be a part of the team, it's about getting them to where you want them to be. And so if it means that to work a bit harder, because here's the thing now, what I do as a leader, I go in and I observe. So I spend some time, because here's the thing, in a relationship, because working together, it's almost like you're building a relationship. So in this relationship now, someone is only going to pretend for so long. So you get to observe them in their environment, you get them on their day-to-day operation. And then what you do is that you get to see the whole picture. And so for me, now I get to learn what are your likes, your dislikes, what works, what doesn't work. And so now when I come back to you and we have a conversation, I can say to you, listen, here's where I need you to be. Here's where we're at. Here's where I know that you're at. And here's where we're going to go together. Now, either you're in or you're not. So most times when you say things like that, they're going to laugh, right? And then they're going to say, all right, so where are we going? And so that's how I would build a brand.
Yeah, and I would also say, I'm gonna let Tish hop in here too, but I'm gonna also say inform, educate, and engage. Those are the three things whenever I'm building a platform, whenever I close a global deal and I need people to execute on it in the field. When I put together my presentation for that Friday call or what have you, I'm gonna make sure I've informed them of what it is, right? To get their buy-in. I'm gonna be very informative. I'm gonna explain to them the why. I'm going to educate them on the whole process and what we need to do to be successful. And then I'm going to have some asks for them. So when those asks is the level of engagement. So when they complete those asks, that means that they've engaged and that they've moved forward in closing that business. So for me, it's always inform, educate, and engage. What do you think, Ted?
I didn't have it as clever as what you put together there, Joyce. But same thing. I try and find connection points for team members, right? Connection points in the service that we're providing and what you're doing for a living. I ran a call center before I moved back to Nashville here recently, and people would like moan and groan because all of these calls are coming in. And so I would nicely remind people that we are a call center. If calls are not coming in, that's bad. Like that's horrible, right? That's exactly what we want.
That's what we want.
Our customers pay for this service. They pay for this service. And so if you've ever paid for a service and you have high expectations, whether it's your dentist, whether it's your stylist, you pay for your mortgage company, you pay for a service and you have really high expectations. Where our customers pay for this service. And if customers stop paying for this service, that is not good, not good at all. not good at all, right? And then also when it comes to that sometimes impacts change, right? Sometimes people are like resistance. Why do we have to change? Why do we have to do this a different way? But again, any company that is doing the exact same thing that they were doing 10 years ago is probably not around, i.e. Blockbuster, i.e. Circuit City. People may not even know what those companies are, right? So you have to constantly evolve. You have to evolve with technology. You have to evolve with customers. So evolve with clients. So when I think about gaining buy-in from team members, you always have, a few resistors in there. But I think meeting them where they are and finding the connection points to their life so that they can start to be believers in, right, the brand so that they can then go and execute. I think that goes a long way.
Yes.
All right. So,
Next
Tish,
on my,
I think,
oh,
Tish, I had a question for you because I just answered this today, and so here's where I'm at. I hear often time I'm almost dealing with a situation where people are still stuck in us. All right, so you work for a company for 10 years, and so when you're tenure with the company, things have been changing. But if you have an employee who is still stuck at ground zero, and whenever there's an issue with a customer, because there's always going to be different issues, they're always saying, well, this is not what we used to do it, or this is not the norm, or we have to revert because this is what we were told. And so how do we now, you know move away, because we're in the 21st century where things are evolving and changing every day. So how do we now evolve to say, I need you to come from 10 years to now?
Yeah, so I try and I try and give stories. I try and give examples to help people see the light. One of my go-to stories is usually the story of Blockbuster. Blockbuster had the opportunity to buy Netflix a long time ago. Long time ago. This is back when Netflix would send you DVDs in the mail before they had a web version of Netflix. So they would get the DVDs in the mail and you'd send them back. And so Blockbuster had an opportunity to buy them, and they didn't. And one of the things that Blockbuster made a ton of money on was late fees, right? So customers bring in their tapes in and they brought them in too late, and so they make all this money on late fees. And it was a pretty high revenue stream, and Blockbuster did not want to give up their late fees because Netflix, you could send the DVDs in anytime you want. You keep them 10 days, 15 days, 20 days, 30 days. And so Blockbuster passed on Netflix. And, fast forward, Blockbuster is no longer with us. Netflix is killing the game right now, especially in COVID. Like the stock for Netflix just during COVID has gone through the roof. The point there is Blockbuster had an opportunity to pivot. They had an opportunity to change, and they didn't, because they said, hey, we've always done it this way. We've always had late fees. We've always had people turning their DVDs or their tapes back in. And they failed to pivot. And here we are, fast forward right now. One of my favorite quotes from Henry Ford is, if you had asked customers, if you'd asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. And we have the automobile, right? So like I try and connect for people that if you're not changing as a company, you're done, right? I was just having this conversation with one of my leaders the other day that companies tend to go through 3 phases all the time. They're either starting up, so startup, and you're trying to figure all these things out. You're throwing a bunch of money at stuff, and you're getting it built. You're in startup mode. Number 2, you're optimizing. So you've been around a while. You're trying to get your processes better. You're getting leaner. You're driving costs out of the business. You're improving your customer service. So optimizing. And then 3 is downsizing. And downsizing is when you're taking things out, you're shutting down call centers, you're shutting down locations. So business is always going through one of those 3 phases. Sometimes they're going through multiple phases. And I would say as a company, you want to be going through all 3 phases all the time, right? Because times are changing. Some of the locations that you chose are no good anymore. Now we got to start up a new part of the business. So let's go put energy in that. Now we have to optimize costs within our business. So any great business, those 3 phases of it, you're always doing. And I would say even as a person in your own life, you're always doing 3 of those things. You're starting something new in your journey. You're getting better at something, your workout plan or your financial game. You're getting better at something, or you're downsizing something. You're getting something out of your life. You're changing, you're turning over something. So hopefully, Bernard, I'm giving you a couple of different nuggets there, but I try and connect with folks and give them that change is a part of the game. Like, that's how you stay around a long time. If you're not growing, you're dying.
Keyword says how you stay around a long time. So what's the goal? Monica, anything else out there?
Yes, one more question. So with COVID-19 and the changes to the financial sector and some people having to downsize their companies, downsizing the number of people on their team, but there's still obligations that need to be met and people are feeling overwhelmed. How do you recommend someone stay motivated and not have a negative customer experience from the outer looking in portion?
Yeah, that's a tough one. We assuredly have been so fortunate that we hadn't had to lay off any employees. We've actually had a surge in call volume, and so we've had more people join our team. We've had to make some changes where we have call centers and folks would go into call centers, and now we can't do that. So we had to quickly stand up more of a work at home type of environment. So getting equipment out to employees, make sure they have the right internet so that they can work from home. So that's been a big change. I mentioned for my team who's out in the field, we don't go in customers' home anymore, so we had to adjust there. So we certainly have made some adjustments in that respect. We haven't had to, terminate any employees or anything like that. We've been able to keep people whole through this time. So we've been fortunate in that way. Now we are a larger company, so that's a little bit different. I would say on just being motivated, it's hard, right? Because you do have these smaller companies and they got to pay the bills too, right? And so if their services are not being used because people are in a financial hardship and can't use the service, then they can't keep their employees. So it's a cycle, and that cycle has to work, and every piece of it has to work in order for everybody to win. And we're in this really tough time now. I would say from a motivation standpoint, these things are happening for us, not to us. That's how I choose to believe. And so as I think about if you're someone who's been impacted, say laid off or furloughed, just as there have been companies that have been closing and shutting people down, there's been other ones that need people, right? We've been one of those folks. So in the interim, you may have to switch to something else just in the interim until you can get back to the thing that you were doing before. Again, I think all of these things are on our journey for on purpose. And sometimes you think that you're going to go this direction and you're still going to get there, but you might have to make a quick detour and then come back because there's something for you to learn when you make that detour. So
yeah, absolutely. And yesterday I spoke to National Sales Network Dallas chapter about how to reinvent yourself. And what I said to them that right now in this time, a reinvention really isn't optional. Everyone needs to be able to embrace it. Everyone needs to, first of all, I tell my friends when they called me and they're, like, oh, what are we going to do? First I tell them to be still. So you can listen to your inner self. Then you really need to just figure out what it is the world needs right now, because whenever there's a time like this, whenever there's pandemic or panic or what have you, a market falls or fails, what have you, there's always a shift in wealth, right? There's always someone that's going to figure it out and become billionaires from this time, right? And we've seen that. And, so you have to be willing to make that shift, and you have to be willing to enhance. Reinvention all time isn't a complete makeover, although right now at this time, if you need to make a complete makeover, then do what you got to do. But you definitely need to be able to embrace enhancing what you already have. You need to ask yourself what your previous customer who's no longer coming to you needs, or just what the world needs. Write it down. And then you look and say, what do I have in my skill set, in my wheelhouse already that I can solve this problem, right? Bernard and Tisha both talked about solving problems, serving and solving, right? So what problem can I solve? What skill set do I have, right? Immediately, we were going to do the sales leadership retreat in Bimini Island, Bahamas, and we immediately moved it to virtual because people still was going to need that motivation. Still people will need that training. Some people never haven't applied for a job in 20 years, so they were going to need resources on how to go about finding a job, how to interview. Our Meet the Recruiter piece Companies are asking us to do it again and again now because they want to be able to get in front of people, right? I also took my college speaking platform. All my speaking engagements got canceled. That was in person. So I took it from an in-person to a virtual. I also made it where they can now just go online and request it and order it and, and things without even calling and touching me. So I immediately asked myself, what does my audience need from me at this time? How are they going to need me to respond and support them in this space? So I have an ebook on the website at iamjoycejohnson.com, How to Reinvent Yourself. It gives you some actions that you can take. And, I always start by asking you, who are you in your best daydream? So think about that. Think about your skill set. Think about what is needed in the world right now and really build your virtual awareness. Because, and I'm gonna let Bernard speak about some of the downsides they've had to do in the Bahamas or layoffs or things, or closing hotels and things for a while. But you may have a skill set that's gonna have to serve someone virtually. There was one time when the internet was making millionaires every day. Someone was becoming a millionaire all day long by starting an internet business. So I feel that that's gonna happen now in the virtual space. But you're going to have to pivot. This webinar series is Pivot During Panic. You're going to have to pivot. You're going to have to, as my friend Kim says, from fear to faith, right? And go out there and make something happen. But Bernard, I would like for you to talk about, what are some of the things that, as I said, there's still obligations that people have. And of course, if no one's coming to visit hotels and hotels have to close and you're preparing for COVID, what have you seen from your customer base or from some of the people you're talking to in the Bahamas? How's the impact been? And someone says sometimes the fear doesn't go away. Oh, that was Tish.
Went down again.
Yeah.
All right. But I caught the last part of the question, and I'll tell you this though. This is the first time that we have ever experienced anything like this, and this is the first time the world has ever experienced anything like this. Now, I can tell you from past experience that every year we go through hurricanes, and they're damaging. And so last year, September 1st, we experienced one of the greatest hurricanes that I think the Bahamas has ever seen in its life. But I can, before I answer the question, that we're very strong and resilient people. And we have a way of just always, thriving through all the adversities that we on a daily basis. So now I can tell you that, fear may set in because the uncertainties, the unknown, there are persons who will be affected and who were affected, children are involved, school fees, mortgages, rent, all of the bills that are due. So, but I can tell you now that the atmosphere of the islands, the first thing is first with we have to protect our people. We have to take this very, very serious. And so that we have to, we've been doing it. And so we just have to be very strong, continue to fight this, and continue to just move on, because this will not last. I promise you, this will not.
Mm-hmm. And you say we haven't, experienced this in the past, but actually we have. One of the things that they always say, your history kind of tells you your future. So one of the things I actually did was I went out and researched, and it's getting a little off path, but I went and researched the swine flu. And I studied at that time, what actions was taken, what was the time period, and things that it took to address the swine flu, right? And and it actually took them 2 years to get through it. But I really believe now, because at that time we didn't have the technology we have now, we didn't have the level of communication between countries and scientists and governments and things that we have now. So I think that we'll get ahead of it, but we still, I think also maybe in that time that people were a little bit more obedient than what we are now. So, if we can embrace that obedience and really, and speaking to myself too, we can embrace that and do what we need to do to all stay healthy and safe, but if you look at what's happened in the past, and you study it, it can kind of tell us some of the steps that was taken for us to move through and for us to, for the countries to get back, the world get back on track. So what's that quote, Tish?
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes is, in the end, we will be okay. And if we're not okay, that just means we're not at the end yet.
There you go. There you go. Well, thank you guys again for being on the panel. I really appreciate it. Monica's going to get your addresses. We're going to send you something, appreciation from us. But thank you. Your experience, your insight has been invaluable. And I really hope, and I know that our audience has gotten something out of this. And we love having these this webinar series. And so we're going to not have it on a weekly basis, but I said we're going to move it to month. But I really want to thank you both, Tish and Bernard, for participating. And Tish, while you were on vacation, I do that to people. People tell me all the time, they get on, I was on vacation, Joyce. Well, I retired. I'm like, did you? Oh, okay, my bad. Come on anyway. So thank you guys. I certainly appreciate it. So Monica, where I'm going next? Oh yeah, so we have some great news that we're announcing at Y Sales Network as we continue to grow as a business and organization, and as I said, meet the needs of the people that is in our audience and who we serve, and the companies that we serve, because now we have a lot of companies reaching out and saying, here's what we like to see you guys do, here's what we need from you. We have decided to expand our circle into an oval. And the oval is going to be the membership leg of Y Sales Network. This is a complimentary membership. We're not charging for it. What we do want to do is make sure that we're able to contact everyone. We have a Meet the Recruiter coming up. We have companies that have presence all over, the world in many countries that are going to be looking to hire people. We want to be able to make sure that we can touch people. When we have the webinar series, there's going to be things that's going to take place that we're not going to have on our Facebook pages and things. In order to do a review of them, they will be in the oval. When we get ready to set up, God's will and everything happens, we get ready, we're already ready and planning to have everyone for the retreat, the conference that we're going to have in the Bahamas. We plan to go back to Bimini Islands since we didn't make it there this year. And then we're also, when we're there, we're going to take a trip to look at Freeport for 2022, Bernard. But we want to be able to notify you guys of all that. And so here's our new branding for it. We ask you to join the WSN Oval. And we decided on the Oval. We know it's popular out there right now. It's probably a lot of hashtags. I know Tyler Perry has a show out there. But what I do like is that when people say you need right now, it's important to expand our circle. And that's exactly what happens when you expand your circle. You kind of pull it out and you get an oval. So I want to say welcome to the Oval. Go to our website at ysalesnetwork.com to join the Oval. We are making some changes also where we're splitting the two sites from the I Am Joyce Johnson brand to the Y Sales Network to stand alone. So we're trying to take the site down and move it over and things like that. So if you experience where the site is down, just please go back at another time, earmark it and go back. We're trying to do these things late at night, but due to COVID, the hosting company isn't taking calls late at night anymore. So we're having to do some of the work during the day. So we apologize if some of you went to the site over the last couple of days and you caught us at a downtime, but we appreciate you being persistent. We appreciate you hopping on today. So join the Oval.
So before we close, I just wanted to make one remark. So you could let me know. Now
go right ahead. Go ahead before I do this.
All right. So I just want to, personally thank everyone for tuning in today. This is a great example of what we can do once we come together as a, strong Bahamian team. And so I just want to personally thank my entire team that, signed up, shared this information. They were my marketing gurus. And so I want to especially thank my friends, my boss, Mike Colley's Ian Roll, Tamika Roberts, Bradley McDonald, Donovan Bowe, like Kitar Young. These are the persons that come out and droves, and they support me each and every time. So I just wanted to say a personal thank you. If I missed anyone, I do apologize, but just wanted to thank you and, continue to go on this journey with us.
Yeah, whenever you start calling names, Bernard, you miss someone. You start calling those names, boy, someone's bound to be missed. But that's great. Yes, and thank everyone for the Bahamas, because I know you guys are Eastern time, and I know some people tried to hop on doing the the Eastern time at 6. So just thank you guys for hanging in there with us and coming back and participating. And don't forget that you need to cast your vote for Joyce Johnson to become an ambassador of the Bahamas. Okay, so.
Hey, Joyce, you got my vote. Hey, Bernard, you were awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. And Monica, appreciate you in the background, wheeling and dealing back there. Thank you.
Yes. Monica's always great. Thank you, guys. And so connect with us at Y Sales Network, www.ysalesnetwork.com. We're on Facebook now, Y Sales Network. We have we've been on Facebook. We have the LinkedIn page. We have the YouTube page, which is really the I Am Joyce Johnson page, I believe. And it's my blog where I give sales tips. You can go there and hear sales tip after sales tip after sales tip. And then we now have the Y Sales Network Instagram page as well. So stay tuned. We have a lot of great things that we're doing. We have companies that we're talking about. They're wanting to be able to reach you as our audience, companies who are working on diversity and inclusion, companies that are just working on ramping up in their hiring process. And we are looking to partner with them and help them along. We're going to have our regular Y Sales Network conference that'll be taking place in June every year. And now we've also added a student conference that will take place in April. So we appreciate your support. We'll be reaching out to you and your companies and organizations to help us out. And so with that said, we're signing off. I am Joyce Johnson, author, speaker, sales champion coach, and founder of Y Sales Network. Make it a great evening. Thank you, guys. Y'all are awesome.